Hello, everyone. I'm Tanya Rivero. Welcome back to CBSN. Every day, millions of Americans don't know where their next meal is coming from. It's a sad reality and one the Biden administration has vowed to fight. But Center on Budget and Policy Priorities reports 22 million American adults struggled to obtain the food they needed in the past week. That is 11% of the adult U.S. population. Many of these individuals also have children. For more on this, let's bring in Jason DeParle. He is a senior writer with the New York Times. For his latest article, he profiled several U.S. families struggling with hunger. He also highlighted the Biden administration's efforts to address hunger in America. Jason, welcome. It's great to have you with us. Of course, it's no surprise that hunger in America has been exacerbated by the pandemic. Can you tell us a little bit more about the Biden administration's plans to combat hunger and why some people you've spoken with call it a profound change from what previous administrations have done?
I think it's remarkable on two levels. It's remarkable in the amount of money that they're spending to expand various programs. Food stamps is one of them. WIC is another. A voucher that replaces school lunches is a third. Billions upon billions of extra dollars are going to go out in the next few months to increase benefits for low-income families. I think it's also extraordinary in the way that the Biden administration is talking about it. You know, in the past, I think Democrats have often approached aid to the poor in a kind of indirect, almost apologetic manner. They didn't want to be seen as aiding the poor and neglecting the middle class. They were trying to position themselves as moderate and appealing to the broad middle. That's not happening anymore. The shift in rhetoric is just quite explicitly saying, you know, there are poor people who are experiencing deep hardships and we want to help them.
And so for your piece, Jason, you spoke with several families who are currently battling hunger. What was your main takeaway after talking to all of these individuals? Was there a common thread or a common theme you heard from them?
One of the themes is that the food stamp program as it currently exists just doesn't pay enough to get people through the month. It's called officially the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP. The supplemental reflects the idea that people should be contributing something to their own, food budgets. In theory, the SNAP program isn't meant to pay 100% of a family's food needs, but we're in an extraordinary circumstance right now, and where people often can't supplement their food budgets. And most people are running out of benefits 2.5 or 3 weeks into the monthly cycle. That's a common thing you hear again and again and again. The Biden administration is expanding the benefits over the next few months, and it's also looking to a long-term increase in the underlying benefit. I think this will have a legacy going forward. Excuse me.
Yeah, that was going to be my follow-up question. If the Biden administration was therefore expanding SNAP, and you answered it, it is. So, of course, as you are aware, many Black communities face unique challenges that result in them being more likely to face hunger. Can you explain why that's the case and what's being done to specifically alleviate this problem?
Black and Latino families experience hunger at rates maybe twice as high as white families. You asked why it is. Well, Black and Latino families tend to be poorer, of course. They also tend to be more affected by the pandemic. So their unemployment rates are higher, their illness rates are higher. I think there's also historically been issues of access for racial minorities. Sometimes they don't get signed up for the programs at the same rate. I think all those things are part of the current situation with why food aid is, why hunger rates are higher among minority communities. Again, one of the extraordinary things has been just how explicitly the Biden administration has been talking about that. The Secretary of Agriculture, Tom Vilsack, made a big point of pointing out the racial disparities when he spoke at a recent nutrition conference. They've got a committee at the Department of Agriculture looking at all the programs for a disparate racial impact and trying to look at where they have done insufficient outreach or otherwise failed to reach all the minorities who qualify for their programs.
And so when it comes to outreach, then, is the Biden administration going to go one step further and not just sort of study the problem and actually send people out into these communities so they can sign up for these food programs?
Oh,
like
absolutely.
SNAP?
Yeah. So WIC, which is a program for a nutrition program for women and children, the number of people participating has actually been declining in recent years, even before the pandemic. Nobody's entirely sure why. But one of the things that Congress just did was to pass more aid, $300 million, in fact, just for outreach, not for benefits alone, just for outreach, to try to go out and reach more people to see who they're missing. It's not specifically aimed at minority communities, but it often has that effect.
Right. And of course, one of the biggest victims of hunger in America is unfortunately children. According to Feed America, 13 million children don't know where their next meal is coming from. Of course, a lot of this exacerbated by the pandemic. What programs have been put in place by the administration to specifically help children from going hungry?
Well, this isn't specific to the Biden administration, but it's specific to the pandemic. They've replaced Congress earlier at the start of the pandemic, replaced school meals for schools that were closed with electronic vouchers. The school cafeterias tried to keep running, tried to do sandwich distributions, grab and go sites. A lot of them made really heroic efforts to try to get out the aid, but it's hard for people to get to the schools and pick up the food. So it's easier to send a plastic benefit card to the people that they can then use at a grocery store to replace that the meals that children rely on and lost to school. There's 30 million kids who get 1 or 2 meals a day at school. So when the schools closed, that really hurt lots of kids and put a big pressure on the family's nutrition budget. Congress in the last round of aid has both increased the dollar amount and extended the eligibility for the number of kids that can get that aid, and also extended it longer. So more kids will be getting more money for a longer period of time.
All good news. Jason DeParle of the New York Times, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you, Tanya.